Hi, I'm Xinyi. Today I'm gonna talk about my experience of being a queer person in China.
Hello, my name is Oliver and I'm a trans guy who make videos about LGBTQIA+ people where they get to talk about anything they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I'm currently on the countryside of Sweden where my boyfriend lives, but I recently spent a weekend in Stockholm to hang out with my friend and his cats. While I was there, I also took the opportunity to meet up with a couple of amazing queer people who agreed to share their stories with me and my camera.
Hi, I'm Xinyi, pronoun she, her, hers. I'm from China, mainland, originally. I've been in Sweden for 2.5 years. I'm from a relatively small town in China, sitting in the East Coast line, somewhere near Shanghai. I identify myself as queer.
And this is what it was like for Xinyi to grow up as queer. And remember, as always, that this video is about Xinyi, and her experiences does not reflect every other queer person in China.
So growing up in a small town means you don't have access to the outside world. You don't have access to get in touch with the information. And you're also lacking a role model in your life because people all around you are quote, normal people, as they would identify themselves. Yeah, like cisgender people and also LGBTQ people are really hiding among the majorities. And it's really hard for people to come out also in such a small conservative place. So back then I wasn't really know who I am. I remember when I was in high school, I fell in love with a girl. And I actually take that quite quickly as I don't have much struggle on that. But then I think a lot of struggle comes from the gender binary back then. And I think I was influenced by that a lot. As I started to think about, if I like girls, then how should I behave? Because I'm quite comfortable with myself being a woman. But then back then, the gender binary would have so many pressure and also stereotype. So I started to think, should I behave more like a man or how should I behave? And I think that caused a lot of struggle and problem for me.
Her understanding of herself and her identity has evolved throughout the years.
When I was in China, all the people that I've dated and being in a relationship were women. And then I came to Sweden and I really started to think about who I really am. Because since I've been dating women only, it's so natural to think myself as a lesbian. But after I came to Sweden, I started to think about what is attracting me. Is it the gender or is it something on them that's attracting me? So right now, I would identify myself as queer because I really don't know. I'm still in the journey of exploration.
And she likes being on this journey of exploration.
I think it's quite interesting and actually it's an exciting journey because I think this journey should never be stopped. And back then I was kind of stuck because the environment wasn't really supportive for people to explore. Since there are censorship in China, you don't really see other people's stories. So it's kind of hard to explore. But coming to Sweden, I think the environment becomes more open. People are more open-minded. There are people who's already out, and they would also share their experience, share their story. So I think inspired by a lot of people back then also and also here, I think it gives me a lot of inspiration and also encouraged me to start exploring myself again.
Let's get back to her time in China.
So I mentioned gender binary has been influencing me a lot. And I think it's not only me, it's for a lot of people. Because back then in my hometown, people don't really talk about it. And for example, my parents, they don't even know there are queer people. They don't even know there are women who love women. So it's really hard to explore and also to talk about it. Back then, I only came out to my best friends. And I could see they really try to be supportive, but since they also don't have that knowledge, they don't really know what to say. Yeah, so I would say life is really hard in small places. When I turned 18, I moved to a big city and entered college, and then things becomes really easy. I wouldn't say easy, but easier than before. because it's a big city, and also in the university, the students are really open-minded in my generation.
She also joined a group that happened to be very queer during university.
Oh, and by the way, I played basketball back in university, and I would say half of the team are not straight. They're really proud, I would say, my teammates back then. And also, I think being in a group, because we practice a lot, we play games, and we spend a lot of time together. And I think their attitude really get into me, because back then I never thought, for example, lesbian or like queer people could live so proudly and they don't really care what other people think of them. And for me, I think when I was a teenager, I was so afraid of people gossip and also like people's opinion towards me. So I really tried to hide it. And I also tried so hard to be successful. The definition of being successful back then in China was, have a career, have a family, you go to top university, and you act like others. So I was really trying to be like that. But then after I came to college, I saw so many different lifestyles. I saw people proudly living their own lifestyles, having their path. So I really started to think, probably it's a time for me to explore and also like to review who I really am and to try different things. I actually cut my hair when I was in college, like really short hair, buzz cut. Most of my friends think it's really cool, and I also like myself back then like that. I also like myself right now with long hair. But also, I think by the time when I cut my hair, I was also exploring the different concepts. For example, like non-binary, because I really didn't know which category I should fall into. But now I think I don't really need to fit into any of the categories, or I don't really need to put a tag on myself. So I think we should take that narrative back, and we should be the person who dictated that, and we should define ourselves. Don't let other people do that. Because I think the concept of, for example, non-binary or like the new concept of gender, it's not based on the sex. I think it's supposed to liberate people and not like gender binaries, which just put people into certain categories and ask you to behave in a certain way. So I think we really need to take that back.
I asked if there was anything else about her life in China that she wanted to talk about.
Maybe I could talk a little bit about my relationship with my family. It's actually a broad topic, and we've seen a lot of stereotype towards Asian family. But I would say, for me, my family would actually fall into that stereotype, unfortunately. My parents, they're not so conservative, but still they've been living their entire life in that small place. So they haven't really met so many people in their life. I would say for my parents, they really didn't think about a lot of things that should be think about. For example, the marriage and also different lifestyles, and also their expectation towards me, towards their kids, because I have a younger brother. And I think the expectation towards us is to be successful, which I just mentioned as, have a career, have a good career, go to top university, have good grades as a student, have a family, have kids. By family, I mean, a heterosexual couple. So they have the same expectation for me the whole time, which I don't really buy it. But I couldn't really come out to them because they haven't really get in touch with people like me. They didn't get enough information, and nobody talks about it in their life. I try to talk a little bit about it, but not focusing on myself, but maybe like bring some other examples and try to see their attitudes. And unfortunately, I don't think they can accept it still now. But I think whatever I'm doing, it's having some progress, I would say, although very slow.
Xinyi hopes that she one day will be able to come out to her parents.
I sort of want to do it when I feel comfortable and also when I have a little bit more trust. Because I couldn't really talk about my dating life to them. When I have some doubts or questions, I couldn't really ask them. And they're also not sharing their experience, like how they've dated each other back then. and how they decided to get married. I think in Asian families, it's a very sensitive topic. People don't really talk about it, even for like parents and kids. We don't really say I love you to each other. I think it's very different, and it's a little bit oppressed when it comes to the relationship in between parents and kids, at least for my case.
We're going to end this video with a message from Xinyi.
I would say the positive message that I would send is that if you've been going through a lot of hard things, or if you have a lot of doubts, don't hesitate to reach out, and also trying to get more positive energy or get inspiration from other people. Because sometimes you just get stuck with your own thoughts and you couldn't step out, or you couldn't move on just because you are in your own small bubble. But I would say there are a whole world outside. What you need to do is just step out and get to explore.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!